You promised you'd take me there again someday. But you never did.
I got a letter. The name on the envelope said Mary.
Silent Hill 2 isn't just a game, it's a psychological labyrinth, a descent into guilt, grief, and punishment. Released in 2001, it remains one of the most analyzed horror games of all time. But beneath the rusted metal and suffocating fog lies something even darker: unanswered questions. Today, we unravel some theories that redefine Silent Hill 2, its characters, and its haunting narrative.
Could she really be here?
James never truly made it to Silent Hill alive? What if the entire journey he embarks upon, the horrors he faces, and the encounters with the bizarre and terrifying figures were all taking place in the afterlife? This theory suggests that James died before the events of Silent Hill 2 even began, and what we experience in the game is nothing more than a manifestation of his guilt and inner torment. Consider Toluca Lake, its calm yet eerie water symbolic of a place where life and death meet. What if James drowned in that very lake, possibly in an accident, before ever reaching Silent Hill? He could have been pulled into the foggy town as a part of his purgatory, a realm that forces souls to confront their unresolved sins. The town itself is a twisted reflection of his psyche, a prison that traps him in an endless loop of his past, unable to escape the choices he's made. Throughout the game, James encounters manifestations of his guilt. The monsters, the unsettling environments, and even the characters he meets all reflect his inner struggles. His wife, Mary, who he believes died from a disease, haunts him in various forms throughout the town. But Mary's ghost and the tormenting figures of Silent Hill are not merely random horrors. They are pieces of his own tortured mind, trying to force him to reckon with his actions, most notably his decision to end her suffering. James's journey through the fog-ridden streets of Silent Hill is less about an external world and more about an internal one. The town itself could be a kind of limbo or purgatory, a place where souls confront their unresolved regrets before moving on to whatever lies beyond. As he moves through the game, each encounter becomes a moment of catharsis, forcing James to confront different aspects of his guilt. The nurses, the pyramid head, even the terrifying creatures, these are not just random monsters. They are physical embodiments of the shame, anger, and regret he carries with him. In the ending where James meets his fate at Toluca Lake, we see him standing once again at the edge of the water, this time, facing the inevitable consequence of his actions. Perhaps, in a tragic twist, James realizes that his journey through Silent Hill was never meant to be about salvation or escape. It was always about him coming to terms with the decision he made for Mary, a choice he couldn't live with in life, and in death can't escape. In a sense, he is forced to relive that guilt until he reaches his final conclusion, whether that means redemption, acceptance, or the peaceful release of death. Could it be that Silent Hill isn't just a cursed town? What if it is, instead, a place where the dead confront their own souls, reliving their sins and regrets until they finally confront their past and come to terms with their fate? James Sunderland's story, from start to finish, might just be an endless purgatorious space where the living meet their demons, both figuratively and literally, until they can move on to whatever lies beyond. Pyramid Head isn't just a random monster lurking in the fog of Silent Hill. He's something much more personal. He's a reflection of James Sunderland's psyche, an embodiment of his deepest guilt and the punishment he believes he deserves. Pyramid Head doesn't exist for anyone else in Silent Hill, but for James. He is a relentless, inescapable force that represents judgment, punishment, and the unresolved sin James carries with him. In the twisted world of Silent Hill, Pyramid Head is both his executioner and his tormentor, an eternal reminder of a crime he refuses to confront. The design of Pyramid Head is chillingly specific. The imposing pyramid-shaped helmet he wears resembles that of an executioner, evoking a sense of finality and authority. This is no ordinary monster. It's an entity born out of James's subconscious, a figure crafted from the guilt he can't suppress, the guilt that refuses to be forgotten. Pyramid Head's presence isn't random, it's James's mind creating its own form of justice, trying to punish him for the crime he feels he has committed but can't openly admit, his wife's death. Throughout the game, Pyramid Head stalks James, brutally attacking him, yet never allowing him to escape. Each time James faces him, he is forced to confront the reality of his actions, and the violence is as much psychological as it is physical. The creature appears whenever James is at his most vulnerable, often when he is contemplating his own sins, wrestling with the memories of Mary's death. The great knife that Pyramid Head drags behind him is a symbol of the weight of the guilt James carries, the sharpness of his regret, and the painful realization that he must suffer for what he has done. Throughout the game, Pyramid Head stalks James, brutally attacking him, yet never allowing him to escape. Each time James faces him, he is forced to confront the reality of his actions, and the violence is as much psychological as it is physical. The creature appears whenever James is at his most vulnerable, often when he is contemplating his own sins, wrestling with the memories of Mary's death. The great knife that Pyramid Head drags behind him is a symbol of the weight of the guilt James carries, the sharpness of his regret, and the painful realization that he must suffer for what he has done. The idea that Pyramid Head is James's executioner makes perfect sense when we consider his role in the game. Pyramid Head doesn't just seek to kill James. He is constantly testing him, pushing him to his limits. Every encounter with this figure is an opportunity for James to confront his own actions, and with each confrontation, James is forced to reconcile with the trauma he has buried deep within himself. His actions towards Mary and the way he ended her suffering are represented by the horrific violence that Pyramid Head inflicts upon him. This is a subconscious attempt at self-punishment, as James knows on some level that he is the one responsible, but cannot bring himself to admit it fully. At the heart of Pyramid Head's role is this paradox. While he punishes James for a crime he can't acknowledge, he also gives James a chance to face the truth. The more James runs from Pyramid Head, the longer the cycle of guilt continues. But if he were to face Pyramid Head and accept the consequences of his actions, it could mean the release of his suffering, perhaps even salvation. In the end, Pyramid Head represents the inescapable nature of guilt. He is a mirror of James's self-loathing, a creature born of his desire to punish himself for the actions he took in his own life. But while Pyramid Head may seem like an executioner, in truth, he's more of a catalyst pushing James toward the revelation he must face, whether he's ready or not.
Stay with me. Don't leave me alone again.
Maria is too perfect, too seductive, but she's unreal. She embodies everything James wishes Mary had been: vibrant, alive, full of desire and energy. Her very presence seems to breathe life into the bleak, fog-covered world of Silent Hill. But just as quickly as she appears, she is ripped away, only to return once more, over and over again. But what if Maria isn't who she appears to be? What if she is not real at all? What if Maria is merely a creation of James's tortured mind, a manifestation of his desperate need for redemption and closure? Throughout Silent Hill 2, Maria seems to be both a comforting presence and a cruel reminder. She is James's second chance of fantasy of the woman he lost, a fantasy that he can't let go of, no matter how many times it is shattered. Unlike Mary, who is sick and frail, Maria represents the life that James could never have with his wife before her death. She is vibrant, she is sexual, she is full of vitality. In a way, she is the perfect version of Mary that James wishes he could have saved. But she also embodies everything he regrets. His failure to see Mary as more than a burden before her illness consumed her. Maria's behavior, however, is strange, erratic, inconsistent, and often contradictory. One moment, she appears to be completely in control of her own actions, and the next, she seems lost, confused, and frightened. Her almost childlike dependence on James, her desire for his protection, her incessant need for attention only adds to the sense that she is a creation of his mind, a distorted version of the woman he lost. Every time she is killed, she reappears, as if Silent Hill itself is playing a cruel game with James. But rather than being a punishment for James's sins, perhaps Maria is simply a projection of his own internal struggle, a reflection of his inability to move on from the past. If Maria isn't real, then what is her purpose in the story? The answer lies within James's psyche. Maria is a psychological tool and illusion crafted by James's mind to help him process his guilt, his desire for redemption, and his inability to accept his wife's death. She represents his longing for a second chance with Mary, a chance to save her, to love her, to be the husband he feels he failed to be. But every time she dies, it is a reminder that such a second chance is impossible, that no matter how many times he dreams of rewriting his past, the reality remains unchanged. Maria's constant death, over and over again, is James's mind telling him that there are no do-overs. His actions cannot be undone. If Maria is just an illusion, why does she keep coming back? Who or what keeps bringing her into existence? The answer lies in James's deepest subconscious desires. Silent Hill is not just a place where monsters exist. It is a place where a person's mind is laid bare, where their innermost fears, desires, and regrets manifest as tangible physical realities. Maria is the ultimate illusion, created by James's desperate need to undo the damage done, to rewrite the tragic ending of his relationship with Mary. She's a fantasy he cannot escape, a dream he clings to because facing the truth of his actions, his decision to end Mary's suffering would mean facing the full weight of his guilt. In essence, Maria is the physical manifestation of James's internal struggle, the conflict between his desire for salvation and his guilt over what he's done. She is the perfect embodiment of the life he can never have. But every time she dies, James is reminded that his actions cannot be undone, that the woman he loved is gone, and there's no going back. She dies again and again, just as his hope for redemption continues to slip further and further away. Maria is more than just a person James wants to save. She is a reflection of his tortured soul, an illusion created by his mind to cope with the unbearable weight of his actions. And no matter how many times she returns, the truth remains. She is not real, and neither is the second chance James wishes he could have had.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry. I was just...
It's okay. I didn't mean to.
For me, it's always like this. Angela's words resonate like an eternal echo, a chilling admission of the personal hell she is doomed to wander for all eternity. To Angela, the world is always burning an inferno that reflects the deep scars of abuse she suffered at the hands of her father. The flames that engulf Silent Hill for her aren't simply a part of the environment. They are a manifestation of her past, of the trauma that defines her existence. For Angela, there is no escape. Her personal torment is so overwhelming that it consumes every aspect of her perception, turning Silent Hill into an endless blaze that mirrors the darkness within her own soul. Silent Hill, as we know, is not just a physical location, it is a distorted reflection of each individual's inner pain, shaped by their own guilt, fears, and unresolved traumas. For Angela, the fire represents a fate that is as unrelenting as the abuse she endured. Her version of Silent Hill is one of constant flames, where she is trapped in a cycle of suffering, a cycle she cannot break. The fire consumes her, just as the memories of her tormenting past consume her every thought, every movement. The burning landscape she navigates is not an external force, but a personal hell forged from the abuse and shame she carries with her. Angela's words, "For me, it's always like this," suggest that she is forever trapped in a state of damnation, caught in the unending flames of her past. She cannot escape. No matter where she goes or what she does, the fire remains. In Silent Hill, she faces her greatest fears: the abuse, the violence, the degradation, her painful history, and it burns her from within. The flames around her are a direct reflection of her inner state, broken, hopeless, and forever scorched by the past. Her suffering is not temporary, nor is it limited to a singular event. It is an eternal punishment, an unceasing fire that continually reasserts its presence every time she tries to move forward. Much like the other inhabitants of Silent Hill, Angela's world is shaped by her psyche. The town's fiery environment is tailored to her, an embodiment of the hell she believes she deserves. But unlike other characters, Angela does not have a tangible monster to confront or a specific act of violence to escape. Her torment is psychological or memories of abuse, and her guilt are her enemies, manifesting as a literal fire that destroys everything she touches. Even her encounters with others, such as her brief meeting with James, seem futile. She cannot escape her own mind, her own hell. Silent Hill gives her no peace, no respite. For Angela, it is a place where the flames never cease, where her past is an inescapable prison of fire and shame. The idea of eternal damnation is central to Angela's experience. The fire in Silent Hill is not just a metaphor, it is her reality, a continuous inferno that she is bound to until the end of time. For her, escape isn't just unlikely, it is impossible. Her personal hell, unlike James's guilt-ridden maze or Eddie's violent revenge fantasy, is one of perpetual suffering and hopelessness. It is a vision of purgatory that she cannot outrun, where the past is never forgotten and the present is always consumed by it. The fire is not just around her, it is within her, burning through her mind, soul, and body. Angela is not merely a victim of her past, she is bound to it. Silent Hill forces her to face the fire she carries inside her, a fire that has shaped every part of her existence. Her damnation is not just a punishment for her actions or her history. It is the result of her inability to forgive herself, to escape the cycle of self-loathing that defines her existence. Her suffering is unending, and no matter where she goes, the flames will always follow. Angela's eternal damnation is a reflection of a deeper truth that Silent Hill exposes for all its visitors. It is not just the town that punishes them. It is their own inner turmoil, their own guilt, and their inability to reconcile with the past. For Angela, the fire is the manifestation of a past that can never be erased, a tragedy that has scarred her soul in such a way that there is no redemption. She is trapped, wandering in an inferno of her own making, doomed to relive the pain of her life with no hope of ever escaping the flames.
The name on the envelope said Mary. My wife's name. It's ridiculous. Mary died of that damn disease 3 years ago. So then why am I looking for?
Silent Hill isn't just a town. It's not a singular, monolithic entity with one fixed nature. It is a place that reflects the soul of whoever enters it, tailoring its horrors to fit their deepest fears, regrets, and unresolved guilt. For James Sunderland, it's a fog-covered maze of torment, a place filled with the suffocating weight of his conscience and his inability to confront the truth of his wife's death. For Angela, it is a burning hell, reflecting the abuse and trauma she has suffered throughout her life. For Eddie, it is a place where he can finally fight back, unleashing his violent tendencies in a twisted version of justice. Silent Hill is a mirror, a dark reflection of the demons within each visitor. It's not just a location, but a manifestation of the psyche, a place where each character is forced to face the darkness they've buried deep within themselves. The very streets, buildings, and creatures are all born from the inner turmoil of those who enter the town. For James, this means being trapped in a labyrinth of guilt and self-loathing, unable to escape the manifestations of his own mistakes. For Angela, the town becomes a fiery prison, a punishment for the abuse she's endured and the shame she carries with her. For Eddie, the town is a stage for violence, where he can act out the retribution he feels is justified by his suffering. The town's changing landscape is no coincidence. It's shaped by the characters' emotions and the weight of their pasts, distorting reality in ways that force them to confront the most painful aspects of who they are. What one sees in Silent Hill is not determined by the town itself, but by the visitors. Each person's personal guilt is reflected in the horrors that unfold around them. The creatures they encounter, the decaying buildings they wander through, the twisted environments they explore, these are all reflections of their inner demons. But what decides what they see? What force guides the transformation of Silent Hill from a seemingly normal town to a nightmarish realm? Is it the town itself, or is there something greater at work? In Silent Hill 2, the town operates on a level of psychological manipulation, bending reality to ensure that its visitors cannot escape without facing the truth about themselves. It might be Silent Hill that draws them in, but it's the visitors' own guilt, shame, and sins that shape the experiences they have while they are there. The town acts as a tool for self-reflection, forcing each individual to confront the darkness inside them. As the characters move through Silent Hill, the shifting environments become more than just set pieces. They are expressions of their own internal struggles. The fog that shrouds the town is more than a mere physical presence. It symbolizes the uncertainty and confusion each character feels. The monsters they face are not just threats to their physical survival, but are representations of the emotional pain they carry. The further they venture into the town, the deeper they are drawn into their own personal hells, and the closer they get to confronting the truth they have been running from. But perhaps the most chilling question is, who or what is responsible for guiding them through this nightmare? Who or what decides what they will see, and how they will experience their personal hell? Is it fate? Or is it the hand of something more sinister, something that forces them to face their own guilt whether they are ready or not? In the end, Silent Hill isn't just a physical place, it's a psychological crucible, a reflection of the guilt, fear, and regret that each character carries with them. The town doesn't choose its visitors. Rather, the visitors' inner turmoil chooses how they experience the town. And in that reflection, they are forced to confront the most difficult question of all. Can they forgive themselves for the sins that brought them here? Silent Hill 2 is a masterpiece in the history of horror games. Every answer leads to more questions. Every step forward feels like a descent into madness. But perhaps that's what makes it timeless. In the end, the only real question is, what do you believe? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, leave a like, and subscribe. Now, it's time to say goodbye. See you in the next one.